I actually couldn't believe I met people that had never been in a fight, because in New York, you had a fight a week and you were, playing marbles or softball with the guy the next day. You didn't take it personally. Nobody used knives or guns, and it was no big deal. But yeah, so it was not that shocking for me to grab his arm before he could withdraw with chips and pull him over the table. As the shift boss pulled me off him and said, we got it from here. Okay.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy.
All right, guys. Welcome back to Table 1 Podcast. Justin Young, Art Parman. And this is a special treat, honestly, guys. We always talk about the people we meet in poker throughout the cash games. And I've known Ron actually through tournaments. Yeah. But Ron Coury is here with us, and this is one of the special people that I've met in my lifetime through poker, which we always talk about. But either way, it's amazing to have him on here today. Ron Coury.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we've known Ron ever since we've been playing at the Bellagio and cash games in general. For me, I never ran into you in a tournament, but I have seen front of Card Player magazine with all those chips, and
no, he did. Like I think honestly that's the first I met Ron was in one of the main events at Bellagio. Like this is maybe 2010 or something like that.
That room, the fountain,
the Fontana Lounge.
Fontana Lounge.
That's right. Yeah.
Overlooked the fountains, and great room for tournaments.
Yeah, it really was. And like maybe I played with him like in cash first or the tournaments first. I'm not sure how it overlapped, but. Man, it was fun kind of battling with you during that time. But I know a lot of the poker people don't really know him that well. But man, it's like I said, it's one of the special people you meet in poker. And just to kick it off the bat, I would like to say he has an autobiography called Tenacity, which everyone should read.
Well, thank you.
And do you have it with you?
I do have one.
Oh, you should definitely show it off.
Well,
show that handsome cover.
There is the cover, and I picked a model for the back cover.
And that's the best. Well, not the best part.
It's really good. It's really good that I looked at this before bringing it, because I changed shirts before coming. This is the shirt I was wearing this morning.
That is funny.
Yes, that would have been a little embarrassing. Ron, tell us, do you have any other shirts?
And Ron's Brooklyn born, right? But
Brooklyn born.
Been in Vegas since
1974 was the official move. I say that because I left Brooklyn when I joined the Marine Corps, and that ended up getting me stationed in California, which gave me an opportunity to visit Vegas on my days off from active duty. And generally it was weekends. And I enjoyed this small town of 200,000 people in 1973 so much. It was a totally different experience than growing up in New York City. They call Brooklyn a borough. I think it's got 9 million people just in the borough. But loved Vegas, thought I'd give it a shot. I could always go back home. And one of the things the military does, they give you what they call mustering out pay, which is enough money to buy a plane ticket to get you home from wherever you enlisted from. Yep. So that at the time it was maybe $300 to $400 to get me back to New York, and that gave me some seed money to move to Vegas. And a friend I made in the Marine Corps moved here with me. He was originally from Philadelphia. We were roommates and ended up going into business together.
So they give you your flying home money up front?
Yeah, when you get out. Yeah, when you get out.
Oh, okay.
It's
but like,
nice knowing you. Here's $300.
I mean, that's fantastic. But like, if shit hit the fan, did you have money to get home? Like, was the $300 already spent?
You know, I think the pay back then was about $600 a month.
Okay.
And I could do that in beer. So when I enlisted, I did have about $2,000 saved that my dad held for me, and enough to just get a steak and get a job, put down a deposit on an apartment with my roommate, and just go to work every day. And I was a casino dealer, not poker, but I started out in town as a dealer.
I have seen him cut chips. It is very flawless. What was your favorite to a deal? I know you did roulette, and I think you did craps as well, right?
I started with blackjack because most casinos had 20 blackjack tables in a pit. one roulette wheel, and the dice pit was always a different group of dealers and a different pit. But I was concerned about getting settled, and there were a lot of people getting fired, not for doing anything wrong, but the casino manager or the shift boss had a friend or a relative to put to work. So that motivated me to learn more than one game so I'd be more valuable to the hotel. So I learned blackjack and roulette, later learned baccarat and craps. And I think our hotel was one of the first to have a mini baccarat table. So I never had to put the tuxedo on. You just rotate, and it made the night go by very quickly for me. We had 20-minute segments, so I'd do 20 on blackjack, 20 on roulette, and 20 on the mini bac. Take a 20-minute break and then come back for another hour. And the night just flew by.
And just a quick aside, and we'll go back to Ron, but like there's nothing more intimidating when you're on the river with Ron and he cuts out some chips and he just puts them out so quickly and perfectly. It is very intimidating. I'm not even joking.
I would say it's more intimidating for the dealer after he's all in and they question his count. He's very courteous, sits there and waits, but you can
and he just
feel,
goes like, well, there it is. Like, I've cut it out perfectly for you.
You want to have a turn?
I never self-noticed that. But handling chips in roulette, you really become proficient with chip handling, pushing out stacks with one hand or whatever you did on a roulette table. And it is interesting to note that anyone even noticed it on the poker table.
Oh,
it's noticeable.
No one ever said it out loud.
It's something about someone's aura when they can handle a stack of chips.
Yeah, it was just like he'd slide out like little stacks of black, and they're just like, and then count, and it's just like, oh, this is 6,400, and he just like said it and just like sprayed it perfectly. It was good.
So you were dealing, and what I know you're a very proficient businessman. That's all in the book about the businesses you've run and sold and all of that. But what was your first foray out of dealing into like a big investment that kind of kicked you off?
It wasn't of consequence, but Dan Hughes, my friend in the Marine Corps, and I opened a little thing called the Art Shop in the 70s when decoupage was invented. And we thought there might be a market, so we rented a little space at Commercial Center, which now on East Sahara is nothing like it was back in the 70s. It was an up-and-coming shopping center, biggest one in town. And we opened the Art Shop and ran out of money within 90 days. So I thankfully didn't give up my dealing job. I worked the store during the day and dealt at night.
Wow.
And just went back to dealing. In fact, because it cost more money than I could afford to lose at the time, at one point I asked my shift boss for any extra days off I could get to work the store. And then I turned around, closed the store, and said, Danny, if I could work any doubles, I'm willing to work graveyard or day shift along with swing. And worked out. He gave me a lot of extra shifts. I had the stamina to work 16 hours on my feet, and actually loved what I did because of the multitude of games. I didn't get bored dealing blackjack for a solid hour. They could put me on any table, and I was happy to be able to be valuable to the casino, which gave me a sense of job security and not get laid off at the whim of a shift boss.
Mm. And this was like the glory days of Vegas. No sort of, let me see how I want to say this. Like in California, they spit on the dealers. Has anything ever happened to you? I want to hear like a funny Ron 70s, 80s dealer story where something happened to you that's memorable that you might want to share.
It's odd and interesting that I got in the bar business because the biggest problem you had as a dealer was a guy who had too much to drink.
There you go.
And of course, on the table, you're gambling, your drinks are free. The waitresses aren't tracking how much you had. They're not really concerned with your behavior because, for the most part, everyone tips the waitress. But a guy got really upset that he was losing consistently. I was running lucky. You have days as a dealer, you run good, and days you run bad.
More value to the casino.
And what casino was it? Just curious.
Tropicana.
Okay, good.
Yep, and the guy, I started downtown, as all dealers do, to get proficient. But ultimately, I ended up getting very lucky to get a job at the Trop. And on a blackjack table, a guy had too much to drink, was very upset at how much he was losing, and he reached across the table and stuck his hand in my rack to grab chips. And I was a bit reactive, maybe from the military or growing up in New York, where I actually couldn't believe I met people that had never been in a fight, because in New York, you had a fight a week and you were playing marbles or softball with the guy the next day. You didn't take it personally. Nobody used knives or guns, and it was no big deal. But so it was not that shocking for me to grab his arm before he could withdraw with chips and pull him over the table as the shift boss pulled me off him and said, we got it from here. Okay. Can I take a break? I just need a few minutes. So yeah, that was probably the most physical I had to get on a table with the drunk to protect the house, hang on to the chips.
Yeah, imagine that these days. Everybody's got insurance, and they're probably scared to get sued to protect the chips in the rack.
Yeah.
Old school's a little bit better, I think.
No, they tell you today, let them have the money.
Yeah.
But back then, you defended the house and got awarded for doing it instead of getting in trouble, which seems to be the way it is today. It's a good thing I'm retired. You can take the guy out of the Marines, but you can't take the Marine out of the guy.
Right.
Oh, that's good. All right. Well, so your art shop failed. You ran out of money before you found profitability.
Closed the doors. Thank God we didn't do personal guarantees on the lease. We'd have had to file a bankruptcy. We couldn't pay the bill. So I went back to dealing, pulled a couple of doubles to get even, and ended up meeting my wife-to-be on a flight to New York to visit my family for Christmas. And she lived in Vegas. She was seated by me on the plane, and ended up marrying Joan 3 years later. And we started a family. We ended up having 3 kids. Regrettably, she's no longer with us. Colon cancer took her about 17 years ago. And that's ironically amazing to me, because I got esophageal cancer, which kills 92% of the people that get it. She had colon cancer, which 95% of the people survive. But nonetheless, that was a big shock some years ago. But we raised our family here, and 2 of my 3 kids live here. Tommy's currently in Thailand working a marketing job.
And I don't want to overlook what Ron just said there. Like what you said, 95% of the cancer you had passes. Or
8% survival.
Yeah, 8% survival.
92% die. Yeah.
And then your wife was on the bad beat side, unfortunately.
The easy cancer, yeah.
And that's
my mom had breast cancer and passed from it as well. She didn't survive, but it can sneak up on you, and that's part of life, to defy the odds both directions in that way.
If there's any takeaway from this podcast, regular physicals, if you can catch something early, that's what saved my life. Was the surgeon at USC Hospital said, "How did your doctor find it? I never get to see a tumor this small," because people come in after they're already spitting blood or there's some pain. And I was just getting a regular physical in Santa Barbara, where there was a much larger medical community than existed here in the early 70s. This was a very small town, so it didn't attract a great deal of doctors. And I was very lucky to catch it early, have it cut out, lose half my stomach, but while it reduced my appetite, it took 40 pounds off me. Very lucky to survive it.
Yeah, that's an incredible catch by your doctor. I think I remember either you told the story at the table one time, or maybe it was in the book that it was a normal kind of, I don't know, physical, like you said, or there was an ultrasound or something, and it looked like it was nothing, and then they're like, let me take a second look.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. The radiologist said the body scan has an image of a little speck where your esophagus releases your chewed up food into your stomach. It's probably a food particle. And luckily, the doctor I was seeing annually in Santa Barbara said, you know, if he's wrong, you won't be back in a year to check it again like he suggests. If it's what I hope it's not, it'll kill you within 6 months because esophageal tumors grow so rapidly. So he said, I need you to stay in Santa Barbara an extra day. I want to run a scope down your throat and let's just know what it is. Ended up being a young tumor, and Dr. Murray, who's now deceased, but actually saved my life. And a lot of guys from Vegas were going to see this particular doctor, which is how I learned about him.
Truly a great story, and for what it's worth, I now go to Ron's doctor. It's honestly a part of a inspiration or like just a fatherly advice from Ron. Like my dad passed away from cancer as well, and like my mom has cancer. Like it's or had cancer. She's survived now, or
Remission.
yeah. But it's nice. I'm actually getting a checkup in about 2 weeks. So like it's nice to see the success stories as well as some of the battles that like unfortunately everyone has to face.
Regular checkups mean a lot.
Yeah, they really do.
It's wild. We get a little bit older and a little bit wiser about our health.
You do appreciate life more.
I'm definitely old. I don't know about wise, but
Anyways, cheers to that.
Alcohol can't hurt you. Sorry.
All right. So what was the next thing that you got into then after was that was in between then when that got caught, or I forgot how we got onto the to the subject. You met your wife on the flight home.
Yeah.
Which is a great story by the way in the book.
That cancer,
really
I
good
survived and she didn't. Yeah, that's how we came to that. But moving to town, becoming a dealer, learning all the games to increase my value to the hotel, and then on a dead game, you think about all kinds of things. And I thought, I'd really like to get into business and be my own boss. The harder you work, the more you make. Whereas as a dealer, you split the tips at the end of the 3 shifts. And a guy who had no personality, didn't really make a lot of tips, got the same cut you did. And that really bothered me.
Yeah.
I tried to engage with the players, answer their questions, ask them questions about them, because people love to speak about themselves. And did really well with tips, but being able to be compensated for doing a better job, that really only happens if you own your own business. So that's what I thought about, and then I had to think about, well, what would you do? Of course, I'm on a dead game, so I could be distracted from not overpaying customers. And I thought about getting into the tavern business, and then coincidentally, my 21 boss wanted to buy a bar because his daughter was a bartender. Asked me to look around because I was a realtor by day, and that was before there were business brokers. Realtors did it all, businesses, homes, and the bar that I would stop at on my way home for a cocktail at 3 a.m. after my shift, I liked, obviously, because I went there.
Yeah.
And I went in and cold called on the owner and said, I have a guy that wants to buy a bar. And now, to the way the town has grown, that was on the corner of Spring Mountain Road and Jones, which is today almost in the middle of town. But my blackjack pit boss said, nobody goes out there. Hell, they still ride horses out there. He said, no, I want to be in the middle of town, like on Paradise Road. And I really liked what I saw in this tavern opportunity, but I didn't have any money. What I was earning as a dealer was being spent on paying the bills, the house payment and all that. So I actually sold a home as a realtor for a Cuban guy that I dealt roulette with. And when I brought him his proceeds check, not like it is today, you actually served more duties as a realtor to make things easier for the client. So I said to this guy, a friend of mine till today, Jose Martinez, I said, what are you going to do with this $35,000? Because that's exactly the number Chuck Castle wanted as a down payment on his bar. And he said, I don't know, I'm just going to put it in the bank. And I said, well, they'll give you 5 or 6%, I'll give you 12. He said, okay, signs it over to me. I said, well, I want to do a note, make it all legal to protect you in case something happens to me. And he said, yeah, okay, if you want, but I trust you. What a great guy. He said, all these other guys are going down. I don't know if it still happens, but on a break, they'd go down and play tonk on their break.
I used to play a lot of tonk as a kid.
Okay.
What's tonk? Explain it to the noobs over here.
It was I played it with my dad a lot, where the jacks were wild. There was a jick, a jack, a Joker. Is that right? Or-
I never played it. That's
sorry.
where I was
Sorry.
going. I'd go on a break and read and study for my real estate test.
All right, so guys like us would be down there gambling, but you were trying to get ahead.
Yeah.
He's still trying to better himself where we would have been.
I'm like trying to learn this game so we can play it right now.
Sorry.
Amazing how things turn out, because that's why Jose offered me the money. He said, you're always studying and trying to do something, whereas these other guys are playing talk on every break. So I know you're going to do something with it, and I know you're going to pay me back. And I ran down to buy the bar from Chuck, and that's how the first bar happened. And Dan did it as a partner. He was a screen printer, printing slot machine glass, and I was a dealer. So bought the bar. I worked 3 more months as a dealer till I knew the bar could support my bills and enabled me to support my family, because by then we had a son. So I had obligations, and the bar worked out. Was able to grow it to 4 bars. 2, I bought the dirt and built my own building along with Dan, and it worked out very well. Neighborhood casinos, and then grew from there into the car business and the printing business with Dan. And as the book will describe to your listeners, about 20 total businesses over my career here as a businessman.
Wow, 20. I was going through them in my head, the ones that I knew, and I honestly, one of the most successful ones, the car business, I had completely forgotten about when I was doing my little mental recap.
You know, if there's a takeaway, it's nurture the friendships you make, because you never know what they may turn into. And as a dealer, I enjoyed gambling recreationally, and it's nice if you can make money. But the good thing about gambling is you can do something you like, and sometimes you end up with more money than you started with. So the casino host at Caesars that I became friends with said, you've got to meet one of my customers. He comes in from Texas, and you guys had really hit it off. So this host, Elmo, one day introduces me to Don Tamburo, who is in from Texas. He would bring the people from his car dealerships in that had good sales that month. As a reward, he'd give them a trip to Vegas from Austin, Texas. And Don and I sat and had a drink, got to know each other. Whenever he was coming to town, he would reach out to plan a dinner together. And then ultimately, he sold those dealerships in Texas and wanted to move to Vegas. He got to know the other side of Vegas, as I'm sure you have friends that visit, and they see a different side of the town. So Don moved here. And one day he said, let's find a casino we can buy together. You could teach me the gaming business. So as I was looking for something we could buy that was in our market, Hooters was one such location, small hotel with full gaming. As we were looking at properties that were in our price range, he calls one day, and I was actually playing poker at the Bellagio. Probably 2-5 game back then, but he said, hey, I know we were looking at bars and casinos, but what do you think about getting in the car business? I said, I'd love to learn the car business. So I said, if you know anything about me, I've done different businesses. I enjoy the challenge to learn something new. And that's when we bought the first car dealership on Sahara and Rainbow, Planet Hyundai. And within the first year, I knew nothing about the car business, but I was lucky to be in the bar business and have couple of thousand people that I was friendly with, because everyone wants to know the bar owner.
Sure.
And just putting out the word that I was in the car business, it was amazing. We'd get 30 or 40 new car sales a month from people that I knew, and it worked out for our business and for our partnership. So that's how the car business ended up happening.
It's amazing what happens when you're just good to people and people trust you. It's
Yeah, of all your businesses, when you owned them, did you typically own them like one at a time, exit, do the next one, or would you kind of like do how your dealer job was, transition a little bit?
Yeah, you can't plan that.
Yeah, well,
the exit, when you're forcing it, you never get the right price.
okay.
So Dan and I, and later Don and I, grew in businesses, and we would train managers so that when we went on to the next one and wanted to be on site and run it the way we wanted it run, people we would train would continue to run it in the style we did, after working with us so we could go off and do the next business. So yeah, we would end up with 4 to 8 businesses at the same time. And then if someone came along to buy one, if we negotiated the right price, I was always, I like to say I never had an asset, a business or a car that I was not willing to sell. And you get out at the right time and you make a nice profit and you got the bankroll to do the next project.
That's good. That's good advice. I mean, obviously, never been in that type of echelon of business, but from everything I've read about business, yeah, the negotiating power is certainly in the person that doesn't need to sell. You're right about that.
Yeah, don't be afraid to walk away from the table.
That's right.
Because the guy looking to sell to you or buy from you will come back. And it optimizes your pricing.
So, so on that note, you obviously have a very talented mind for business and running the tight ship and getting them going how you want them to going, and then make a clone of yourself to run the business and move on or take a hands-off sort of approach. What would you, obviously Justin and I run a poker business. We have a game at Table 1. We try to make poker fun again. That's our slogan.
Which
and
is nice.
and how would you, and obviously we're trying to tie that into this media business with the podcast and the social media and all of that. How would you go about if you were a professional poker player and you were trying to grow our business? What would you put?
To be fair, this is just for us. We're probably going to edit all this out. our listeners don't need to hear any of this. This is literally just an excuse for Art and I to ask you a question like
Honestly,
this.
yeah, this is exactly the kind of thing I actually really want to know.
No, of course. This is the stuff that...
I think the best answer is exactly why we're here now. I found poker when I got sick, so I could find something to do. I could no longer compete in racquetball, which I used to do 4 or 5 times a week in tournaments at the old sporting house. And I loved it. I loved the competition. I worked out a lot from the Marine Corps. And after the esophageal cancer, I couldn't do that anymore. So finding something I could feel was challenging my brain and was interesting to me, poker filled that need for competition. So that's why I found it. And I think to grow what you're doing, you guys are friendly guys, which is why we're here. We grew to know each other competing against each other, but it was a friendly rivalry. And whether I won or lost on a day at the table, I wanted to just have a good time. And not to belittle the value of winning or money, but if you're not enjoying yourself, whatever it is you're doing, don't do it. So I loved every business I got into. I loved the challenges. And when I stopped loving it, I made it known I would sell if the right deal came along and find something that I enjoyed doing.
That's
God bless. That's great. Sincerely, that's...
Do what you love until you don't love it anymore.
I mean, that should be true for gambling or poker or anything you're in general.
Exactly. Enjoy your life.
Yeah,
You never know
exactly.
how many days you have left.
People should not take, including gambling and poker, guys. Speaking to all our listeners out there, including me when I watch this later on, you should enjoy what you do. You should, if you're not having a good time playing poker, video poker, craps, roulette, whatever it is, you should probably stop. Like, I'm being completely serious. Like, it's an entertainment. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You're paying for the experience, and that's more than fine.
Well, when someone decides that they enjoy a recreational activity, it will generally cost them money. Whatever you're doing, golf or pick anything, it's going to cost you money. Poker is competing, and you could actually end up with more than you started with.
Yeah.
So that's a nice addition to something you enjoy. And when you meet guys like you two, and you know the circle of guys that play on our table, I feel so lucky and blessed to have met the group of guys that we play with, because they are genuinely great people. If I'm busy with the project or book interviews and I don't play for a few days, the number of guys that reach out and say, hey, everything okay? Haven't seen you. It's heartwarming. Yeah. Guys really care. They're not just looking to gamble with you.
Yeah.
You become friends.
Yeah, that's really big, and the competition and that aspect of the game is definitely a really fun part of it, and why most of us continue to do it. The competing against, it's brain on brain violence going on at the table,
Exactly.
but at the end of the day, we can all be friends.
It's like on my side of the family, especially, like the ones that can get past like looking at it like I'm playing roulette for a living, the ones that can see the strategy games in it. The first question is always, so you play against a lot of your friends every day? And the answer is always like, yeah. They're like, well, how do you deal with that? That seems so awful to like, try to beat your friends out of money. And unless you're in the muck, in the fight of it, like you don't appreciate the battle, the camaraderie of like competing against each other. Cause like I don't think about it at all. Cause like, yeah, at the table, if Ron beats me in a big pot, like I'm not happy. Clearly I'm not happy. But like 5 minutes later, if Ron's like, oh, do you want to go grab a drink or go play craps or something? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like it's not even a second thought or anything like that. Like it's competition's here and friendship is here. And like, it's not even close to like competing against each other.
And I think that the thing that non-gamblers have trouble with is the money aspect of it. They don't see like they could, if you explain it to them like, well, would you play racquetball or tennis against your friend and then still be friends if they beat you?
Right.
Just pretend the ball is money, because that's what you're hitting back and forth in
Yeah.
this competition.
And it's 100% true, at least for me. Like I've played golf for money, not successfully by you. But it's embarrassing how much I'm down in golf, by the way. But like, yeah, I still want to do it every single day because like it's just another competition. Like if I could like gamble against enemies of mine, I would still do that too. But it's just more fun and more trustworthy to do it against your friends.
Well, hearing that, you make me want to take up golf.
Oh, you should. What you need to do is get a bar near my house. And you would make all the money off me. I'm starting to work on my taxes right now, get my win-loss statements. It's you might blush over the amount of money I would have given you.
You would not believe how many times Ron has told us, I wish I knew you guys when I owned a bar.
I was playing pool against Ron last week, and he had some great photos of like him and his staff and some patrons. And I was like, oh man, I would have loved to be in that photo. And if I was born a few decades earlier, I 100% would have been there. I guarantee that. Wow.
Yeah, the bar business in this town in the 70s was a very interesting thing because I had a 3-sided bar in my first location, and each side would seat about 10 stools. So besides the tables and the booths, you had 30 people at your bar when it was full. And what a mix of people. There'd be a mobster next to a lieutenant from the police department, next to a couple of dealers and a pit boss. And when they walk into the Suburban Lounge or Thirst Busters or the Castaways, the way I tried to make my places feel, and my managers carried that forward after me, it didn't matter what your standing in life was or what your earnings were. Everybody was equal, and they all had a good time getting to know each other. That's like this TV show Cheers. We did it before they did. Everybody wants to know your name.
My favorite show, by the way. Literally my favorite show.
Yeah, I once heard something about Cheers, what made it so good. The writers said if there was ever like a joke that more than one writer like thought of in a moment, they would throw it out. They would not put it in because like it's too obvious then. If they could both think of it, then it must not be any good. So
they did have some great writing on that show.
Yeah, for real.
Like Charles Burroughs or Lynn Burroughs and gosh, sorry, my brother is gonna be embarrassed by me. Might have to edit this part out because it's like my brother like lose respect for me, but like yeah, we used to love the show and like knew every character's name, real name, fake name, whatever, like all that fun stuff.
And your competitive drive is like still pushing you to this day. Like you could easily just be doing nothing on a beach somewhere.
He just kicked the shit out of me in pool. Of course his competitive drive is great.
I'm just saying, you're still getting into businesses like to this day, are you not?
Well, I would consider anything.
Yeah.
But I do need to learn to act my age. Whatever my mental drive is, I'm 71. I don't have the energy I used to have, and the cancer took a lot out of me. So I'd rather work with people that have the drive I used to have and help them as a partner or investor and give them advice, but not have to be there 15 hours a day. and enjoy the life that I was able to provide for myself and see my kids and enjoy my grandkids. And that's my goal now, is to just enjoy every day as much as I can and not so much be driven to make a business work.
No, that's
Well said.
That's well said.
Thank you.
Sincerely, that's fantastic. I think I don't know, that's kind of my goal in the future. Like,
It's my first time hearing it, but now it's my goal too. Anybody out there wants to give me some passive income so I can enjoy it with my family and I don't have to be there 15 hours a day.
There's a chance we might have to stop gambling so hard in order to succeed, but yeah, maybe not.
This is our foray into a business that we love, gambling and sharing it with the world. So
One can never tell where socializing may bring opportunity. You know, this friendship I developed with Don, it was to play baccarat together when he visited from Texas, never anticipating we'd end up getting in the car business together. And then after having multiple other businesses preceding it, to have that fall into my lap and have our friendship and partnership grow, and it ended up being the most rewarding financially resulting business of anything I've done. The car business ended up being the most rewarding financially. And that happened as a result of socializing.
yeah, we did.
So don't stop.
Yeah, we did an episode a couple episodes ago where I just I laid out something that I read in a business blog that was like the 4 levels of luck, and one of them, the top tier, was reputational luck, where, like you said, you get to know someone, you never know where it's going to lead. You're not doing it like to get anywhere, but you're just like putting yourself out there, and then at the end of the day, somebody has an opportunity and the light bulb goes off in their head and they're like, oh, what about my friend Ron? You know, does he want to maybe go into this with me? He's sharp. I can trust him.
Very lucky day for me when he asked me to be his partner, because this guy knew the car business like the back of his hand. And at the time, getting a gaming license and a liquor license, everyone was doing it. So there was a bar on 2 or 3 corners of 4 corners. And everyone couldn't do that with the car business. The investment is higher. You know, think about putting all those cars on a lot. So the opportunity presented itself as a result of socializing with them and not having any agenda.
Yeah, that's great.
That's fantastic. Sorry, I got a little chill there. I'm not even joking. Like when you did your 4 levels of luck or whatever, and like I know I've had my definitely stationed in all 4 levels or whatever, but like getting to the 4th level and actually seeing some repercussions from the 4th level of luck, man, it makes you feel good about the way you treat yourself and your friends and you know, anyone around you. Because like, not that you do it intentionally, like, you know, hoping to get something back, but like it's nice to like kind of I don't know, feel the love, I suppose.
Yeah,
like
it's nice to be thought of.
Yeah,
when
exactly.
when anyone could be thought of and you get thought of, it feels good.
It's special. It really is special.
I know we've been talking a lot about the book already. There's your life and what the contents within, but is there a specific story or anything from the book that you feel like you want to highlight to kind of give people? It's an autobiography, by the way, in case you guys haven't picked that up.
Just a couple more things, guys. There's a couple audio books of this same book. Dean Cain has one of them. And, oh, shucks, I'm losing the name.
Michael Madsen.
Michael
from
Madsen.
Donnie Brasco.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's still available, because when you get a new
Audio file.
narrator, I've never searched if I could get the other one, the first one. But after Michael Madsen did the reading of my book, after 2 years, as sales slowed, like with any business, you want to
Rebrand it.
maximize sales.
Yeah.
And I thought one way to do it would be a different narrator. And purely by coincidence, I'm watching the news one morning, which when I wake up, I put on 30 minutes of news to see what went on in the world. And the news program I was watching had a Zoom call from Dean Cain in Malibu, where he was commenting on something that occurred in the country. And I remembered him because in the 90s, when he did Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, on ABC, I think, my kids were younger, and it was a TV show we would watch each week. And I thought, wow, he looks good. He hasn't aged much. He's in great shape. Interesting. And then talking to my public relations people about Michael Madsen's book sales had fallen off, I said, what do you think about hiring a second narrator? And the publicist said, well, I've never had an author do that because they usually can't afford it. You don't make a lot of money with books. You just don't. You need your book to become a movie, which is what I'm working on now. But I said, well, what do you think about reaching out to Dean Cain's agent for me? Let's see if he'd be interested. And that developed to Dean coming to visit, meeting him, spending the week together, talking about working together, and then him actually doing it. And he enjoyed the visit so much, he subsequently bought a home and moved here from Malibu.
Still here, by the way.
Still here, yeah. He had a 4th of July party I was invited to, and met his parents and just met a bunch of great people. And he's a friend now beyond the business relationship, which the thing about reading a guy's book is you read it, you know all about him. And Dean enjoyed what he read enough that he wanted to continue a friendship, and it's worked out quite well.
That is special.
He is a super man.
Well,
Okay.
and we've both been to Ron's house, and he actually has some Superman memorabilia, which he assured us was before Dean did the book.
Yeah, no, it is spectacular in his man. I wouldn't call it a man cave because there's like a huge window overlook over the lake.
Like a man floor.
It's a game room. It's a game room. Yeah.
A game room doesn't do it justice either, by the way. Like I would shoot a shot and I wouldn't even pay attention to Ron's shots as he's shooting pool. I would just read articles or take a look at the memorabilia. It is something else.
Well, thank you.
Oh
You
my gosh.
guys are too kind.
Yeah, we'll have to do like a MTV Cribs walkthrough.
But truly, Dean did become a lifelong friend now, and it wasn't just a gig where I hired him to read my book. And I'm quite happy and honored that he liked the town and he experienced enough to move here.
So, is there any story out of your book specifically that, I don't know, you want the listeners to tease them in order to get it? I'm sure a lot of people have already got your book that are listening right now, but for those that have not.
Oh boy, the book goes through a variety of topics. One that a lot of people ask me about is when I wanted to go into the limousine business and no one was getting into transportation. And people assume it was because of a mob influence, but it wasn't. It was very good businessmen back in the 40s and 50s that were able to influence what was a very small town in a very small state to get protective licensing regulations that would make it very hard to get into a business. And the limousine business was just such a business. I ended up developing a friendship with the guy in San Diego who opened the limo company, and going out there to visit him, I loved the idea of it and what he was experiencing. So I thought, well, I'd like to open one in Vegas. And everyone that advised me, lawyers, business consultants, said, don't do it. And that's just the wrong thing to tell a guy that has a dream.
Dog with a toy in his mouth, huh? He just, nope, not letting go.
So yeah, there were some challenges in that with, there was no caller ID then. And my phone number was in the phone book because I was a realtor and people needed to be able to call me when they wanted to hire a realtor. So I would get these death threats at my home number, which really scared my wife. And I don't know if I was foolish or just a Marine at heart, and I saw it as a challenge. And continued the effort, ended up who I believed was the cause of it, and an experience my book will describe in greater detail with the guy that I thought was prompting this in an elevator, leaving a Public Service Commission hearing at the State Building on East Sahara. Luckily, there were no cameras in elevators then, and he and I were alone in the elevator. When you read the book, you'll hear the story
If
about.
that's not an appropriate cliffhanger,
Please
I don't know what is.
read the book. I'm not even joking.
One of my favorite things about the limousine business that you have in your book is your just like your entrepreneurial mind, where I think you described that all limos and cab services, et cetera, need to have branding along the sides. of the vehicles.
They need to be identifiable for the regulations. Yeah.
Right, and everyone else had taken that to mean, whatever down the sides, but you just put presidential limos, right? So,
Pres 1, Pres 2, Pres 3 on the license plate.
right.
And the state said that's identifiable enough.
But it was a little bit of a risk for you to do that, and because the theory, if I remember, was people want to pretend it's their limo. They don't want people thinking they're just renting this limo.
Exactly
for the day.
right.
Okay.
Right. And it ended up not only that thought that it was more marketable that way, but I bought only stretch limos. We stocked the bar. We had tuxedo chauffeurs, things that the existing limo companies weren't doing. We stepped up the level of service, which we were sold out every day, every night, and it ended up being a good business for Dan and I to build and then flip. And he bought the land on Sunset Road to build thirst busters on as a result.
Wow, yeah, that's incredible. And it's just more of the kind of zig when people are zagging type of mentality, because most people would think, well, you're doing this limo business, don't you want like your phone number on there so people can call and rent a limo? And you're just like, how about the opposite, where nobody knows it's a rented limo and they figure out from the word of mouth that they can rent from me. And I think that kind of stuff, it just like even going into the transportation business when everyone's telling you no, like it's a little bit you're taking it as a challenge, but like also there's probably not going to be much competition there because people are too scared to go into it.
Yep, and there wasn't. There were two companies in this town for decades, and others either found out how hard it was and didn't try, or they tried and failed. The PSC wouldn't give them a license. I found the niche that I thought would give us the edge to get a license, and it worked with stretch only, tuxedo chauffeurs, and a higher level of service.
Yeah, that's
And it didn't hurt that the chairman of the Public Service Commission was a former Marine.
There you go.
And ironically, where did I learn this? Because he's not advertising that. During a break in our 14 days of hearings, I'm in the men's room and he's at the next urinal, and you're standing there and he starts talking to me. He says, "So where'd you do boot camp?" I said, "Oh my gosh, sir, you served?" And not that the fix was in, because you still had to get a majority of the votes.
It's a brotherhood, like truly.
Yeah, well, it certainly helped when things got tense in the hearing room that the chairman was a former Marine.
I don't know about you, Justin, but I don't have a lot of conversations at the urinal.
I try not to, but the chairman of my hearing said, "Where'd you do boot camp?" I'm going to answer him.
Justin, you haven't told the story on the pod.
I don't think I have.
Or tell it.
You know Bruno.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Ron's familiar, at least with the person. I'm not sure with the story. I feel like I've told him this at some point. So either way, at some point at a Bellagio game, I went to the restroom, the one next to the sports book. I come by, use the urinal, just empty spaces all around me. And then a guy comes next to me, stranger, complete stranger, right to my right of me, which is no big deal. And then all of a sudden, I just feel these hands on my shoulders, just like massaging me. And like at this point, I know it's Bruno. Anyone that knows Bruno, Caleb Firth, knows exactly what I'm talking about. But just let me know how confident I was if someone grabbing my shoulders at a urinal in a public restroom.
Very exposed. Yes.
But I know who it is, so I'm not even freaked out. I don't even shudder. I don't shift or anything like that. He just starts grabbing me or whatever. And he does it for, I would say, less than 5 seconds, but over 3. And the guy right next to me just looks over at us. He's just doesn't say anything, but just looks at me. And the guy behind me, Bruno, just goes, "Don't worry, you're next."
He's very quick with it.
And the guy just immediately finished up, zipped up, and zoomed right out of the room.
Depending on what day of the week it was, Bruno could have a multitude of colors of hair for the guy to wonder about.
And costumes. He could have been in a Spider-Man costume. He could have been in
pajamas.
A My Little Pony costume. He could have been in anything.
That guy loves life and loves pushing the envelope. And love you, Bruno.
Truly love Bruno. One of the pure gamblers still left in Vegas for what it's worth as well.
Talking about the amazing things that could happen from a casual acquaintance, this host at Caesars introduced me to who would years later, become my car dealership partner. But because when he was just visiting Vegas and I would go meet him and we'd have dinner and play some baccarat together, he actually learned, when I called people when I was diagnosed with this life-threatening cancer to say goodbye, because the doctor said it's not likely you're going to come out of the surgery. And the surgery ended up taking 12 hours and actually filleted me on both sides, front and back. But I called Don in Texas to say, hey, we just met a year or two ago, but I just wanted to say it was great being your friend, and I don't think I'm going to come back from the surgery. So I'm just telling friends I love them, and it was nice knowing him. And he said, oh my gosh, you look so healthy. And I said, yeah, the tumor hasn't had a chance to have an effect on me, but I'm going to this surgeon in California that they say is the best for this type of surgery. And this guy actually sent his privately owned jet, which to that date I had never flown on one, sent it here with his pilot to take me the 40-minute flight to John Wayne Airport to get to the USC hospital. And after my surgery, a month later when I was released to come home, continue healing, he sent it back to bring me from LA to Vegas and then flew it back to Texas where he lived. He ended up being a dear enough friend that he moved here and we ended up going in the car business together. So I only tell this story because you never know what a casual friendship might turn into and how valuable and loving a friendship could be for a guy to be so generous to provide comfort when you're at your lowest point in life. So I just say this because people need to realize, be nice to people on the way up the ladder, because you never know when you're going to run into them on the way down.
Yeah, and just in general, be a good human. Nothing.
Just teared up. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, that was a touching story.
That is special. I don't know. I feel like I have a lot of close friends and that have done me a lot of solid favors. But that's special. It really is.
Yeah, the most I'll do for Justin is let him charge his car outside here at the...
I couldn't even pull that off, but for what it's worth. I tried for a little bit, and then like Ron pulled in behind me. I was like, oh, okay, I gotta go. but
This is going so well, I'll give you a ride home if you need.
Sorry, not to go down a morose path or anything, but like when my dad was like in hospice or whatever, but the hospice doctor or the nurses or whatever, we got really close with him, and it was a very special relationship, and they did things out of this world that like I can't explain. But anyway, sorry, get teared up. I was gonna go further on.
Just start
Take a
crying,
moment.
Justin.
But no, like it's truly special, and like the fact that they cared that much. Obviously, they deal with that kind of things like on a daily basis, but like they took the extra effort to attach themselves to our family and help us out through that. And it's
Yeah, don't envy the jobs of hospice workers. They're special kind of caring people that help people in their last moments. So, yeah, shout out to all the hospice workers out there. We appreciate you. People who have dealt with it. But speaking of tenacity,
Yes.
Ron, where can people?
Great way to lose my audience, guys.
happiness now.
While you're out there on people's deathbeds, you want something to read, an inspiring story.
It's a quick read. It's easy.
Where can people go other than Audible to hear Dean Cain's lovely voice telling the story? Where can they go
To get a book?
Yeah.
It's on Amazon, also through the Barnes & Noble website. But Tenacity by Ron Coury, spelled Coury. And if you go online to order it, you can select the paperback, a hardcover, or the Audible version by Dean Cain, and it'll upload to your phone, or you can order a book and actually have a paper book to read in bed, and that's how a lot of people like to read these days.
I agree. By the way,
And what I like to do, sorry Justin for cutting you off, is I like to get the physical copy of my books, and then I like to get the Audible too, so I can listen to it while I feel like I absorb it better that way. So,
wow.
So if you guys want to
thought
give
to do
Ron
that.
double the money,
Please buy 2 books. Yes.
buy it twice. But
That's a good
seriously,
idea, actually.
seriously, and I mean, not every day you get a legend like Dean Cain in your ear while you read about a legend such as Ron Coury.
Well, thank you. I'm honored and humbled for you guys to feel that way. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I like to have the tangible book. I don't know. There's something with that. I don't know. I like it. That being said, I feel like my wife might enjoy Dean Cain's soothy voice creeping into her ear.
It helps that Ron, to cover up, to not expose himself to any lawsuits, put some of his poker buddies into his book as alter egos, including Justin Young is in the book as a character. Yep. Jay Parman is in the book as a character. Yep. And you'll just have to read and find out if your name is in there, fellow poker players.
There are several, so you might be surprised. Yeah, you might say, "Oh, I didn't know Chris Johnson was a lawyer."
Yep. Anyways, it's a great story, and now you have some more background onto that story. So, and it ain't over yet. He's still out there, not swinging for the fences, as you said. He's acting his age these days, but
yeah, but him acting his age is like he's still out. He's out batting me right now. I mean,
I wouldn't bet. I wouldn't bet my.
I'm doing my best, and he's crushing me.
Oh yeah, and I wouldn't bet my last longer against Ron either. Just personally.
You guys, you're raising the bar here, buddy.
All
right. Well, anything else you want to share with the people before we?
Well, I don't know if I've touched on it, but the website is roncouryauthor.com, and you can look at the website. There's a gallery of photos. I think there's over 50 photos on the gallery now with pictures of times in my life. And many people have said they've enjoyed looking at the gallery while either ordering a book or having Dean read it to them. And I am honored that the book was an Amazon bestseller for several weeks when it came out, which makes me feel good about my work being appreciated.
It's your life. What do you mean your work? That was
life's work.
I mean that.
And is there any social media or Facebook page for the book that people can go on?
The website provides all that information. Absolutely.
Awesome. RonCouryAuthor.com.
Correct.
All right. Well, then that means there's just one more thing to do, Justin. I think you know what that is. We make this podcast, we make this content, but it's not for free. We don't ask for any money. But we do have something we call the Degenerates Agreement. And what that means is, fellow degenerates out there, you need to hit the subscribe button, the like button, leave a comment, because we do read all of them.
Art reads all of them.
I read all of them.
He sends me all the good ones.
I send him the nasty ones, the ones where you tell us how bad we are. So leave all of those in there, and yeah, we can't wait to do another one of these for you. That's what pays the bills. Your button clicking. All right, thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for having me, guys.
All right. That's the pod.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy, we working hard for this money.